بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. We continue tonight in the chapter of Salat, and we on Shurut al-Salat, the conditions of the Salat, and this is we reached the third condition, which is covering the awrah. And last week we stopped on page 206. If you have I'm sorry, I forgot to do something. If you have the PDF, page 206, if you had a PDF. And this is the next issue. We already spoke about the awrah of the man and the awrah of the woman, right? So the author, rahimahullah, and this is the issue. Number one, the awrah has to be covered, right? How long, though, does the awrah have to be covered in the salat? Through the whole salat, not just part of the salat, through the whole salat. Before we start, right, one of the biggest problems as far as keeping knowledge and information and remembering it, one of the biggest problems is not reviewing the knowledge. If you don't review what you learned, it's always going to slip. Meaning, if we got class on Wednesday, you're supposed to go home after class and review Wednesday night. That's how it's going to stick. Then you're supposed to review Thursday. Then you're supposed to review Friday. Then you're supposed to review Saturday. Every day you're supposed to be reviewing. If you review like that, by the next class, everything's locked in. A lot of us, not just in this class, we don't review at all. Or if we review, it's very little right before the next class. And that's not the way to keep the information. And if you do it like that, meaning if you don't review every day and then you show up at the next class and you didn't review, when you really need the information, it's not going to be there. It's only going to be there if I'm constantly reviewing it. That's why it's there. You know Al-Fatiha like that because you're constantly reading Al-Fatiha. That's why you don't even have to think about it. The knowledge that we learn is going to stay there and lock in if we constantly reviewing it. If you're not constantly reviewing it, what's going to happen is you're going to show up in one of these situations that we're talking about and be like, man, I remember we went over that. Remember we went over it and knowing what to do at the time is two different things. You with me? So it's important to review. Review is super important. Tayyib, the awrah has to be covered the entire salat, right? So this issue is, and there's three situations here. Three situations where I prayed the salat, but I have to pray again. I got to pray over, as we say. I have to pray over. If I have to pray over, I already made, for example, asr, but I have to make asr again. And there's a couple reasons. He says the first reason, this is on page 206. وَمَنْ انْكَشَفَ بَعْضَ أَوْرَتِهِ وَفَحُشْ. The way they translated it, it says, whoever exposes a part of his awrah in mischief. Whoever exposes a part of his awrah in mischief. What's the awrah of the woman? What has to be covered on a woman in the salat? Everything except the face. What has to be covered on a man in the salat? According to what we learned, the navel to the knee, right? That's in all the prayers? An obligatory? That's for the sunnah. An obligatory, you got to cover one of the shoulders with the awrah, and then the recommended prayer just between the navel and the knee, right? What happens in this situation, I'm praying and some of my odor becomes exposed, right? It says, ba'd odatihi, not the whole thing. A part of my odor is exposed. It says, wa fahush. And there it says, in mischief. I don't know why they translated it like that. It says, in mischief in the translation. What it means, if this happens, meaning my odor is exposed. So let's just say, like we was talking about, let's just say I prayed in some basketball shorts, right? And the shorts are too small, right? So that means if you move a certain way, the shorts rise too high, right? Like, that doesn't mean my whole odor was exposed, but that means some of it was. Now, if I'm praying and the shorts rise and then I go in another position, then they go back down, no problem. If the shorts what? The rise and then they go back down. The problem comes is if the odor, the shorts or they rise for a long period of time in the salat. The odor was exposed for too long. Even though it was not the whole odor, it was a piece of it, right? A piece of the thigh is exposed in the salat. If it's exposed for too long, then we got a problem. So you pray 2 rak'ah with your thigh out, right? That's not the same as a person went into ruku' and they came up in the let's say the 3 or 4 seconds they were in ruku', their odor was exposed, and then when they came up, it was covered again. That's not the same. So where it says in mischief, that means that I don't know what that means, but the ibarah, what the author intends is that the odor becomes exposed, and is either one or two things. Either a small piece of the odor is exposed for a long period of time, right? Or so a lot of the odor is exposed for a long period of time. Everybody get it? It's possible it's just a small piece of odor exposed, just the thigh. It's not like it's whole, right? But it was only exposed for a couple seconds, and then he pulled his shorts down, he fixed it, no problem. But if his shorts rose too high and he prayed like that 2-3 rak'ah, in that case, his odor was exposed, a portion of his odor was exposed for too long of a time period. So if he prayed like that, he's going to salam out, he needs to pray over. And if he prays over, then he should do what? He should cover, right? You get a azar, something to cover so you don't have the same problem. That's the first situation. Like the second situation, a person has to pray over. It says, "Oh, salla fi thawbin muharram alayh." A man prays in clothes that are haram for him to have on. A person prays in clothes, and those clothes are haram for us to wear. It says, prays with clothes that are not lawful. What clothes are we not allowed to wear?
The pants that everybody wears. It might not be in like legislation, but the pants that everybody wears, they got them crosses on them.
They got crosses on them?
Yeah, it's called Kusubi jeans.
Who?
They call it Kusubi jeans.
Kusubi?
Yeah, or Chrome Heart jeans.
Chrome Hearts?
Yeah, they got crosses on them. And people like
they got crosses on them.
Crosses. A lot of young people wear those.
Allah Mustaan. All right, let's do one at a time. Because we definitely, for real, I don't have no Chrome Heart jeans, me personally. But for the people who wear them, we shouldn't be wearing anything with crosses on them. Why would you put on something that represents the deen of the disbelievers? Why would you wear something that represents their deen on you? Whether style or no style. A cross? Let's start with text-wise. What are we not allowed to wear as Muslim men? Silk. So that means a man prayed and he has on, and it says here, how they translate this? Clothes, all right. Silk. Now, y'all might think that's crazy, but somebody might put on a silk suit. He's still going to pray, but is it allowed for him to wear silk, a man to wear silk? No, he got a pure silk suit. Or a person prays in clothes that are stolen. Who wears stolen clothes? Not you, Sheikh. No, Sheikh raising. I know you.
I don't wear stolen.
I know you don't. I know. Yes.
I was talking to a brother one time because a lot of times I don't do it anymore.
You buy stolen stuff. From who? Boosters. So as long as I ain't tripping, I don't want to be like I'm dictating what's going on. We all know what's going on. People be boosting, they be stealing, they be busting credit cards and busting checks. Then they go buy clothes, they boosting from the store, and then they come and they buy them. We Muslim all the time. Listen, we Muslim all the time. Even if the brother or sister selling it Muslim, they wrong. It's stolen. And I'm not saying everybody who's selling stuff on their own stole it. And we don't assume that all the Muslims who sell clothes we don't assume everybody's stuff is stolen. That's not the assumption. But when I know it's stolen, that's a different situation. I know it's stolen. I'm not talking about brothers is grinding, sisters is grinding, selling stuff. We're not saying all of them stole their stuff, they boosted it, they bought it. We're not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying when I know that a person has stolen goods and property, as a Muslim, I'm not supposed to purchase that. And if it's clothes and I buy them and then I come pray in them, this is one of the issues. I pray in clothes that are not permissible, they're not Islamically allowed for me to wear. If I do that, this is the second issue, I got to repeat that salat. Everybody clear? Tayyib. The third issue, najisin. It says, or a person prayed in clothes that had najis on them, najis. And in the book it says najasa. Now the question is, what is najis or what is najasa? Just an example. Bodily fluids. That's too general. All bodily fluids are not najis. What does najis mean? Impure. What's another word for impure? Dirty? Soiled? Foul? Filthy? Everybody clear? None of those words are accurate for this. Islamically, none of those words are accurate. Because my shirt is dirty, my jeans dirty, I work construction. You telling me I can't pray? That's not najis. Is it dirty to us? Is it filthy to us? Right? That might be filthy. You say that shirt is filthy. Because the shirt is filthy in our language doesn't mean it equals najis in Islam. All right? All bodily fluids are not impure. What is impure is urine, feces. That's impure for sure. So I'm going to just use urine for example. A person prays with urine on their clothes. Who would do that? Somebody who's not? What you mean? They're not making a stinja, or we say stinger, right? Just so we clear. We say a brother or a sister. They don't make stinger. The real word, y'all, is istinja. Istinja. That's the real word. Istinja. We call it stinja. Everybody say stinja. So that's just so we clear. A brother or sister they don't make stinja. They don't clean themselves with water after they use the bathroom. Or they don't make istijmar. Istijmar, which means a person can even use bare minimum. They can use toilet paper. They can use toilet tissue to clean themselves. A person doesn't do that. That means when they're finished in the bathroom, some of the residue from the urine, akramakum Allah, is going to be in their underclothes. And then they're going to go pray like that. That's a problem. That means they prayed with najis on their clothing. And if they do that, then they have to repeat the salat. Everybody clear? Those are the 3 times that a salat has to be repeated. That's why at the end of page 206, it says, if a person does those 3, in the book it says mischief, exposes a part of his odor in mischief, prays with clothes that are not lawful, or stained with najasa. All 3 of those, it says, must repeat the prayer. They have to repeat the prayer. Everybody clear? The next issue is a person prays in an area, because this is another condition of the salat, an area that has filth. What's filth? What is filth in Islam? Give me an example of filth.
Dog poop in the street.
Yeah, dog poop in the street. Or
The bathroom.
human waste, whether it's urine, feces, dog urine. This is important because sometimes we be praying outside, right? The origin, the usles, we can pray anywhere outside. We can pray anywhere. Grass, concrete, parking lot, is trash blowing around. None of that makes the ground Islamically filthy. Islamically filthy where I can't pray there. Do I choose to pray there if it's trash blowing around? Maybe I don't want to pray there, but I'm looking around. Everything else is a bunch of traffic. There's cars riding by. The only place is this corner, right? Can I pray in that corner? I can pray in that corner. I can't pray in that corner if that's a known corner where people go to use the bathroom. Everybody with me? Either it's known people walk their dogs over there for their dogs to use the bathroom, or everybody knows that men go over there and they use the bathroom. If that's a known place for that, then I can't pray there. Everybody clear? This issue is if I were to pray and I had urine on my clothes, I have to pray over. He says, La man hubisa fi mahallin najis. But not if a person is, a person is locked up. And in the room that they're locked up in is najis on the floor. Is urine on the floor in a room, or even if it's dried, even if it's dried urine. There's urine on the floor and the person is locked up. They can't get out the room. Let me sit down and play catch up. The person who prays in that room, do they have to repeat the salat? No, not in that case. Not if they're locked up. They're locked up. That means they have what? They have no other choice. So we're not going to say I was locked up for 3 days and they had me in this room. It was urine on the floor, so I ain't prayed for 3 days. No. You pray anyway. There's no choice. Everybody get it? طيب. He says, وَمَنْ وَجَدَ كِفَايَةَ أَوْرَتِهِ سَتَرَهَا. Whoever only has enough clothing to cover their aura. Everybody with me? You only have enough to cover your aura. Everybody with me? Meaning you don't have multiple garments, you don't have multiple shirts and all that. You got one piece of cloth, one piece of article. That one clothing article is only enough, it's not enough to cover, it's enough just to cover the aura. Everybody with me? Whoever has enough, then that's what they use it for. You cover your aura with the one piece of clothing. Meaning I don't have anything, I don't have any clothing except one article. I'm going to start using that, even if it's a shirt. Say it's a shirt. I'm not going to just put it on the shirt regular and then my odor. No, I'm going to cover my odor first. If I come across more clothing, then I'll start piling on and covering other parts of my body. Everybody clear? That means I have one garment. It's only big enough to cover my odor. I start with my odor first. Everybody clear? طيب. وإلا فالفرجين. If the one piece of clothing that I have is not big enough to cover my entire odor, then I'm just going to cover my two private areas, the front and the back. That means my thighs going to be out, belly button shut. Everything else is going to be exposed except for the two private areas. Everybody clear? طيب. What if the one piece of clothing is not even enough to cover the two private areas? It's only enough to cover either the front or the back. Everybody with me? Is one piece of clothing, that one piece of clothing is only large enough to either cover your front area or your back area. Which one do you cover? The rear. Cover the rear. That means the front will be exposed. Why do they say cover the rear? Huh? Yeah. All right. I mean, but let's just say, let's use that. He said you don't want to make sajda and your butt is in the air. Cool. If I make sajda, if I cover one of them, regardless, something's going to be exposed either way. But why do they say cover the back? Just in case you're leading salat. We're going to get to that. He said just in case you're leading the salat.
In case there's women behind you, praying behind you.
We're going to get to that. This only has to do with the private areas. They say that the back is a little more, if we could say, explicit. The back has more to be exposed because when a person makes sajda, that means naturally the body is going to cause the back to spread. That's even more explicit in the awrah not being covered. So cover what's more explicit, just in case it is people back there. You with me? Either way, y'all, this is not like the ideal situation. But we in a situation. You only got one choice. Which worse? They're saying that is the back is worse to be exposed. That's the idea. All right. But you were saying, but you didn't want to say it. I'm only saying it like this so we can be clear. طيب. It says, وإن أريد سترة لزمه قبولها. If a person, say you're in a situation, you don't have enough to cover your awrah. Somebody comes by and they give you something to cover up with. You say you have to take it. They're not selling it to you. They're not gifting it to you. They're just like, here, you can use this. Go ahead and use that and pray. In this case, you have to take it. There's no strings attached. Because if it's strings attached, then that's a different situation. Everybody get it? That's why it says on page 207, if a covering is offered, no strings attached, I'm not gifting it to you, you don't owe me anything, right? It says there, then lezimahu. It says he should accept it. Lezimahu means more like he has to accept it. You have to take it. You have the opportunity to cover your awrah. Somebody's giving you something, there's no strings attached. You have to take it and cover your awrah. Tayyib. Everybody with me? We on page 207, which is the situation for the adi. من صلى ويصلي العادي. The person who is naked, no clothes on. Not that we trying to pray naked, y'all. But I'm gonna ask you this: is it a time where a person may be naked and they still have to pray, or is it never a time like that? It's possible. When is that possible?
Slavery or something like that.
Slave. All right, but I'm not saying you're wrong. Let's bring it a little more right now. That could possibly happen like right now today. When is it possible a person might have to pray and they don't have any clothes on? What'd you say, sister? There, yeah, the brothers act like they don't know. Solitary confinement. They gonna strip search, you know. Somebody said it. You're mumbling it though. I know we all know. I don't want to have to say it because I don't want you to think. I know we all know it. You know. I don't want to have to say it. I want us to be able to have a conversation and say it. You know it. It's possible a person gets locked up, they had strip search, and they don't give them their clothes back. Maybe they consider them a high danger, whatever the case may be. They don't give them their clothes back as a Muslim. We're not going to say I didn't have the clothes to cover myself, so I didn't pray. And they had me down there for a week and a half. No, we still going to pray. Everybody clear? Everybody with me? Tayyib. It could be one of us locked up. It could be a group of us. May Allah protect us all. I mean, it could be a group of people locked up, and it could be one person locked up. It could be a group of people. It could be one person, one man locked up, naked, no clothes. They took all of his clothes. They took all of her clothes. Or it could be a group of brothers, a group of men locked up, and they took all of their clothes. All of them are naked. Or it could be a group of sisters, all locked up, no clothes. Or it could be a group of men and women together locked up, and they took all of their clothes. And they all Muslims. Everybody clear? We don't have clothes. We not praying? Huh? Are we praying? We definitely gonna pray, inshallah. The salat never drops off. If the salat doesn't drop off and we in a battle, war, anything less than that is doable. So this is the issue of how to pray if a person does not have the clothing to cover themselves. He says, number one, the person that is naked, that is recommended, two things, that they pray sitting down and they use movements for each position. That they sit down and they use movements for each position, which means what? Move. Number one, why are they sitting down? Just less exposure. So you don't have to be exposed the whole time you're praying, right? Number two, it's recommended to sit down. A person could be naked and pray standing up, y'all. They say it's recommended to sit down. You don't obligatory to sit down. No, it's recommended to sit down, right? And it's also recommended, the second thing is that they pray using movements, just like if a person wasn't able to stand in the salat, right? When they go into the record, they're going to go Allahu Akbar, Sami Allahu Hamida. Then when they go into sajda, they're going to go a little lower, right? Just like that. That's recommended for the person who is naked with no clothes and they're praying to do two things. The first one is to sit down, and the second one, movements for the position, for the different positions. If it's a group of them, it's a group of men. It's a group of men. They're all locked up, and they took everybody's clothes. Do they still have to pray? They got to pray. But it says the imam, whoever leads the salat, stands in the middle. Not like we usually do in the front. What does that do? Less exposure. Everybody doesn't have to look at anybody's odor at that point, right? They stand in a straight line. How many brothers here ever saw a group of sisters pray? A group of sisters. How many brothers never saw a group of sisters pray? Raise your hand. All right. A group of sisters, when the sisters pray, they don't pray like we pray and the imam comes up. They all stand in a straight line. And whoever's leading the salat from the sisters stands in the middle. If you ever see a group of jama'ah, sisters, it's only sisters, no brother leading them in salat. They all line up in a straight rank. Like if we had one rank, and the imam or whoever's leading the salat for the sister wouldn't come here. She would stay there with them and she would be in the middle. This is the idea. If it's a group of men, they're all in the same room locked up. They're taking everybody's clothes. They still have to pray that the imam would stand in the middle of the row. He wouldn't come up front, so everybody has to look at his odor. The next issue is that same room. It's a group of men and women in the same room. It's a group of men and women in the same room, right? All of them, Muslim, naked. They still have to pray. What happens? It says, وَيُصَلِّ كُلُّ نُوعٍ وَحْدَةٍ. Everybody prays, not everybody. The men pray alone and the women pray alone. Meaning the men are not going to lead the women in the salat, even though that's the normal for the jama'ah. In this case, the men are not going to lead the women in the salat. Everybody clear? The men are going to pray alone, and the women are going to pray their salat alone. Follow.
All right. So how that work? So we all got, well, we're not praying at the same time.
There you are.
So we are praying, and then the women doing what? What, they turn around or?
Exactly. That's exactly what they do. While the men are praying, the women turn their backs. They turn away from the men praying. They don't just sit there and watch the men bending over with their odors exposed. The bare minimum, everybody's trying to keep down looking at somebody else's odor we're not supposed to be seeing, right? So while the men are praying, and that's the next one. While the men are praying, right, assuming that the room is not a big enough space. Assuming it's a small room. If it's a big enough room, they could just be somewhere else and the men could be praying over here and then they could pray over there. But if it's a small room, it says, in shaqqa, salla rijal, wastadbarahum an-nisa, thumma aqasu. If that's the case, if the room is too small, the men come up and pray, and the women, they turn their backs to them. So the women can't even see them praying. That means they don't see the men bending over, going down in sujood, and none of that. Why? They have their backs turned. Everybody clear? When the men finish praying, the women going to pray, and the men going to do the same thing. The men going to turn their backs while the women pray. Hold up. Is that clear? Nobody is going to look at, the men are not going to watch the men, the women are not going to watch the men pray, and the men are not going to watch the women pray. Everybody is going to turn. While the men are praying, the women turn their backs while they're praying. When they finish, the women go pray, the men move, and the men turn their backs while the women pray. So, yeah, Yes, recommended to sit down. طيب. The next one. A person is praying. فإن وجد سترة قريبة في أثناء الصلاة سترة وبنى. A person is praying, right? And they don't have enough clothes to cover them, to cover their odor. But they still got to pray. While they're praying, they find something that they can grab real quick and cover their odor. In the salat. They're praying. They don't have any clothes on. They can't even cover their odor, but they still have to pray, so they start praying. While they're praying, just in case it sounds too crazy, y'all. People get locked up. The lights are off. You can't see what's going on. You still have to pray. The brother stands up to pray. He doesn't have any clothes. While he's praying, they turn the lights on. Is that realistic? Turn the lights on. When they turn the lights on, he sees the izar that he's been looking for the past 2 weeks. He grabs the izar. He's praying. The izar is right there. He can grab the izar, wrap himself up, cover his odor, and keep praying. He doesn't have to start over. That's if the izar, which is the covering, is close. That's if it's in close proximity, right? If it's too far away, then he can't do that. He's gonna have to start over. You have to cover himself up and start over if it's too far away. Well, what's too far away? That's dependent on, as they say.
Some of the scholars say anything, the person that moves far enough where you wonder what they're doing. Like if that makes sense. I don't remember the exact word, but like if a person like moves too much, whereas you see them praying and they move to the point where you're like, where they going?
But let me ask you this, because this is gonna get to the answer. How can we determine that?
It would be,
It's a lot of being disturbed a bit.
yeah,
It's nothing.
No, I was going to say, we had learned it was beyond 2 to 4 steps.
2 to 4 steps.
Yeah.
When you say we had learned,
I mean, this class years ago.
it's the same thing.
mumkin. Maybe according to some imams, they might hold that position. Maybe they might put a distance on it. In general, they say it's according to the urf, the custom of the people. What do y'all consider a far walk? What's far?
Like from here, like I'm praying here
Mm-hmm.
and here to your desk.
Everybody consider from here to the desk far? No, I would consider. I would say I'm gonna go real, so we don't have no discrepancy. Sisters can't see, but from here to the front door, I think we all gonna agree that's far. You praying and that's where your izar is, that's far, right? Now we can start chopping back from the front door till we all agree. Well, that's not. You understand what I'm saying? Whatever the people generally look at as far and distant, that's what it's gonna come down to. So it's no necessarily, according to the method of the Hanbali, that it has to be, for example, 2 meters or something like that. They say it goes back to the urf. طيب. And he says the opposite right after that. If it is too far, then he can still go get the covering, but he just can't continue praying. He has to start over. Start whatever salat he's praying, he has to start over. طيب. I think that's page 209. Oh, 208. That was the end of 208. طيب. Page 209. This is the section where he mentions now makruhat as-salat, the things that are disliked in the salat. What does dislike mean, though? It's not haram, but you shouldn't be doing this in the salat. Not haram, but you shouldn't be doing it. So that means you should really what? You should stay away from doing the following things. If a person did it, it doesn't necessarily mean it's haram, and it doesn't necessarily mean it, as we say, broke their salat that they got to pray over. Question? Everybody with me? Let me see how many Jones is there. 6 things. You mentioned 6 things. Everybody with me? طيب. He says, yukrahu fi salat. It's disliked in the salat. As-sadlu. As-sadlu. As-sadl, number 1, is to take to take the izar, or to take not the izar. I'm just saying the izar. When they say thobes and thiyab, right? What they're talking about is not this in these books. This is not, as it says, thiyab. It's translated as clothes. We really say clothes, right? They're talking about a piece of material, like the izar. The izar is just really a piece of material. Anybody who sew, you serge the edges up, and put some decoration on. It's a piece of material. So a person takes a piece of material like the izar, right? And they put it over their shoulders. They just drape it like that, right? They drape it over their shoulders, which means it's possible that we're still showing, right?
Front area.
Right, at least the chest, the stomach, right? It said it's disliked to do that. Why?
Now, is that just in the case that the aura can still be showing?
Let's say between here is covered, right? Or let's just say it's just a big garment, right? And the outer is covered. But the idea for the saddle is that it's draped, so it's nothing really holding it in place. It could fall off, and if it falls off, the outer is exposed, and if it's exposed too long, you got to start over. But if you drop it and picked it up real quick, you're good. So in this case, it's not haram to pray like that, but it's disliked because you put yourself in a situation that possibly when you move, it falls off. So the fact that you put yourself in that type of situation, they say it's disliked to even do that. Don't even do that. Stay away from doing that. But if a person did that, we're not going to say they had to pray over automatically. That makes sense. Tayyib?
So is it safe to put down is dislike to drape the garment over you?
It says here to leave the garment over the shoulders without securing it. Meaning if you make umrah, if you make umrah, right? The two white, we call them white sheets, they just like izars, y'all. It's an extended izar. So izar is a little bigger than a regular izar, right? It's an izar with a little more material on it. So when you wrap it, you're gonna wrap it, and you're gonna see some people get they get buttons put on their junk, like snap buttons, so that it doesn't fall off. Some people they close it and they use what you call them, Jones? Safety pins, right? Some people you're gonna see do this. They're gonna take the what's the name? The white one. Some people they be like this, and you can still see their chest. You with me? And then some people you're gonna see them do like this to secure it so it doesn't fall. They're gonna take this side and do like that. It's gonna grip. You with me? Some people gonna take it and do like this. All that's just secure it so it doesn't fall. You with me? Can it be tied? Allah. This issue is this, just taking it and draping it, which means it could possibly fall off while you're praying, right? That's the idea. Fadl.
So like don't wear your garments loosely.
No, don't just drape a piece over you and then where it has the opportunity. You put yourself in a situation where it could fall off while you're praying. The second one, washtimal as-sammat, and this is basically like the same idea occurs where basically you take in one garment, and this is explained a couple different ways. One way is explained that I'm not trying to be funny. I'm serious. I'm really I'm serious. But I'm gonna just use a female piece of clothing so that we understand what's going on. You know those a woman's dress, right? But I'm talking about like not what's some Jones called? Not a slip. like a tight dress, but I don't know what the material, whatever it is. It's a satin, like a satin dress, something like that, right? Say it can cover your whole body. It can cover from the shoulders all the way down to the ankles, right? Sisters, y'all gotta stop me if I'm tripping. All right. They're saying to take a piece of garment like that. It doesn't have to be a woman's garment. It's a garment. To take something like that, put it over your whole body and keep your arms inside. If your arms are inside the garment, what you're not gonna be able to do? You're not gonna be able to move your hands up, put your hands down. That don't mean you still might be able to pray, but certain things you're not gonna be able to do, right? Everybody with me? Everybody see what I'm talking about? And there's nothing under there also. So you got one garment on, there's nothing under it. It got like basically your whole body is trapped in it and you can't really move around and do the other things in the slot that you need to do. The question is not why would I do that? Because I might not do it intentionally. But let's just say I'm in a situation, this is the only garment I have and I'm trying to make sure I'm covered, right? Then a person might do something like that. Either way, you don't want to put yourself in a situation where basically that's one explanation for you locking your arms inside the garment with the rest of your body. You can't lift your arms up. You can't even go into sajda regular. Everybody get it? That you shouldn't do that. Number 3, taghtiyatu wajhi, covering the face. Covering the face. That your face shouldn't be covered in the salat. Like what? Ski mask. A ski mask. Because that's what we need to make it relevant for what we're doing. In our time, people wearing ski masks, right? That not that it's haram to wear a ski mask while you pray, because it might be cold outside. Well, it was cold outside. I'm not talking about that. It ain't cold. Everybody knows ski mask is style. We shouldn't let style interrupt our worship at all, because that's the style, especially for the youngins. Style should not override deen. That don't mean you can't be deening and have style, but deen takes precedence over style. If the style is going to cause you to take a hit in your religion, then you got to put the style to the side and do your deen first. Huh? Oh, I don't know if this makes sense. Yeah, the garment restriction movement. I don't know if a cocoon is good. Is that? I don't know. It just popped in my mind. A straight jacket, not a straight jacket, but because a straight jacket ain't on top. Yeah, you know how you put your arms in your shirt and you're cold? Say you put your arms in your shirt and you're cold, right? But it's one garment. That's the idea. It's not a shirt. It's just a garment. It's just a piece of cloth, really. You can. That's going to restrict your arms. It might not be a word in English that describes it, but you got to understand it. Yeah, with the arms underneath. That's one way that is explained. So covering the face, it says the next one, covering the mouth and the nose. like in COVID, disliked, not haram. And when you have a reasoning for doing that, then the karaha is lifted. The dislike is lifted because of the reason. We had a valid reason for doing COVID and stuff like that. Or even if it's not COVID, if you go in the hospital, certain rooms, you got to put a mask on. Well, you're in there with the mask on, it's time to pray. Right? You're going to say, what? Oh, I got to take the mask off. No, if you take the mask off, you can make the person that's in the room worse. Or you can get sick. So you're not going to take the mask off. And you're going to say, what? Is it haram to cover my nose and my mouth when I pray? No, it's not haram. What is it? It's dislike. Why is it dislike here? Because this is something that the fire worshipers would do when they prayed. They would cover their mouths and their nose. So don't imitate the fire worshipers. But even if a person had a reason to cover their mouth and their nose, then it's not disliked at that point. It's called, if I can say this like this, the rule, the dislikeness is removed. It's no longer disliked because of the reasoning. They call it droplets and stuff like that, right? It's airborne stuff in the room. Don't take your mask off when you go in there. Put a gown on, do all this stuff, because if you go in there and you uncover, you expose yourself to harm. So that means I'm going to keep that on. And the fact that I have a reason to keep it on is no longer disliked or hated. Does it go for sisters with? Well, what's the order for the women in the salat? Tayyib. And what is he saying here? Is this like to cover the face? Right? Yeah, dislike to cover the face. That doesn't mean it's, listen, y'all, we got to make sure we understand wording. Disliked to cover the face does not mean haram to cover your face while you're praying. It doesn't mean that. Because he said that the woman's odor in the salat is everything except the face. That means what? That means a woman can pray with her face exposed. That doesn't mean it's haram for her to cover her face. It means she's allowed to pray with her face without niqab on. Everybody get it? Some ulama are going to say, but if there's men in the room, then she should cover her face while she's praying. Everything is a situation. And it's from ilm. Your knowledge is going to allow you to get through the situations without no arguments. That's what knowledge does. We get in arguments because we don't know the details of stuff, so we think everything is black and white. And then if you don't do it like this, I'm mad at you. Now your wife done prayed, you tell her she got to pray over. She like, why I got to pray over? You don't really know. You like, man, you got to pray. Astaghfirullah. We go to the joint, man, you obey your husband. That's how I said, pray over. Astaghfirullah. I mean, we don't really know, you know what I'm saying? Why? Why you got to pray over? She asked you, why you got to pray over? You got to be able to explain that. To say somebody's salat is not valid, either, why? Man, you ain't us. This is us. You ain't supposed to be praying with your face covered. You ain't supposed to be praying with your face covered. We don't talk with the talk of the ulama. It's disliked, because for real, it's disliked to pray with your face covered in general, right? Tayyib. But it's another man in the room. Is that the same situation? That's a different situation. But we're gonna say, I don't know all that. I know the sheikh was saying you're supposed to. No, that's not how you do it. Ilm is dislike the cover. It's dislike. All right, the woman can pray with her face exposed. If a man's in the room, then that's a different situation. You can't just bunch everything together and put the same hukum on it, like many of us do. We do that a lot. We assume that it's the same situation, and since this is disliked, this is disliked. Since this is haram, this is haram, and that's not the case at all. It's a situational type of thing. Tayyib. That was number 4. Number 5, وَكَفُّ كُمِّهِ وَلَفُّهُ. Cuffing and rolling the sleeves. Cuffing and rolling the sleeves in the salat. And they also mention, because of the hadith, the hair, with the idea that everything that goes when you go into sajda, everything is making sajda with you. Whether it's your clothing, the sleeve, whatever, everything is going down to make the sajda with you. If your hair was long enough, also, right? Not that, because I remember, and you probably see brothers do it. What's the hukum? What's the ruling on cuffing your sleeves in the salat? Huh? Disliked. So if it's disliked, if a brother prays like that, if he made a salat like that, does he have to pray over? Is his salat invalid? Huh? It's valid. No, it's not invalid. Salat's fine, right? He did something that was disliked, but he shouldn't have prayed like that. But what we're going to do is you're probably going to see, you might see some brothers, we line up to pray. A brother has his sleeves rolled up. He might have just made wudu. He might have forgot. The brother next to him reaches over. I don't know why we think this is cool. People don't like you reaching over, touching them. Like, especially if you don't know them. They don't like you grabbing their foot. They don't like you touching them. We're going to reach over and we're going to grab the brother's sleeve and yank his sleeves down because he got them rolled up. We're going to do like this while we lined up in the salat. Is it necessary to do that? It's not necessary. Maybe the brother, this is assuming, maybe the brother doesn't even know this issue. He trying to figure out, what are you doing? You touching me, like you yanking my sleeves down? Like, what are you doing? He may not know the issue. Huh? Yeah, now that could be something to remove his concentration in the salat, right? Now he got a problem, and that starts something that was unnecessary. Jay, he said, does doing any of these dislike things take away from the reward of the prayer? Doing something that's disliked, does it take away from the reward of the prayer? Allahu A'lam. Allahu A'lam. Off the record, though. Allahu A'lam. Off the record. Based on the what is something disliked. There's no sin attached to it. But it's a reward in leaving it off. It's a reward in staying away from the things that's disliked. But if a person did something that's disliked, there's no sin. Allah, ya Sheikh.
I need some clarity on
Fadlan.
that, because what it's saying here is one should not preoccupy with himself with adjusting and straightening his garment while in the prayer.
Where you? I'm looking. Hold up.
This is
Mouth and
on
nose
page-
roll number adjusted,
This
please.
is on page 210.
Hold up. We ain't get there yet.
No? You didn't get the 5?
Oh, you're looking at the shot.
Yeah, well, it lists, it breaks each one of them down. to one.
Oh, it's explaining it. Okay. What number you on?
I'm on 5.
Yes. On the straightening this garment while in prayer. Yes. It causes distraction. Yes.
Right, but what you were saying is that if a brother, he rolled his sleeves up before the salah,
Mm.
and he came in, is that he shouldn't pray like that.
Yes. What you saying now?
That's different.
No. What you reading is different. We're not talking about that. That's a separate issue. You with me? The issue we talking about is I go make wudu, I roll my sleeves up, I come back, my sleeves rolled up. I come line up. They call me a iqama. I line up, my sleeves rolled up. What's the hukum on praying with your sleeves or tucked or rolled up? Dislike. It's not haram. It's not going to validate my prayer. And then this issue is another issue. That's one issue, y'all. The issue he's talking about is when we are praying, extra movement, you keep fixing your clothes like you're in the mirror, excessive movement. So every time you get up, you straighten your shirt out. By the time you're done, the imam done Allahu Akbar. They done read Al-Fatiha. People do it all the time. In Mecca, they do like people get up from sajda and they mess with their ghutr the whole time in the salat. They're taking it down, the scarf, the red and white scarf. Get up out of sajda, they stand up, pull it down, throw it back, pull it up, pull it down, they fix it. By the time they done and stand like this, Allahu Akbar. Too much movement. That's that issue. That's not necessarily the issue about rolling up the, tucking the sleeves out.
Why is it an issue then with the sleeves rolled up in the salah?
They base it on the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. That's it says specifically that don't cuff or roll the sleeves in the salat. That's what it says. I didn't really get into the hikmah, the reasoning behind it, but the hadith says the two words that they use. So they took the two words and entered it right there. Don't do that. Now if we get in this book, this one, this will give us the hadith and the explanation behind it, but that's going to be too long. That's not for this class, unless we really need to. طيب. Number 6, وشد وسطه كالزنار. They translated it as, and this is not for everyone, but it says tying a string around the waist, right? We don't tie strings, but we do use belts, right? But that doesn't mean you can't use a belt. The zinar is a certain type of a look that the kuffar would use, the non-believers would use to pray the salat and take on and tie your middle the way that they would do it. And the point behind that is that we're not imitating the disbelievers in our prayer. Don't even dress like them. Don't put anything on that's specific to them. Don't do that. That's the idea.
That's, isn't that, imitating the priests?
Say it again, Sheikh. I'm
When you say
sorry.
the disbelievers, isn't that imitating the priests?
The priests.
Like, yeah, like the priests.
It said the Christians. It didn't necessarily say the priests, but it said the Nasara.
No, but I can't give you, I remember in class when the instructors quoted Imam Shafi when he was asked he was asked a question, and Imam Shafi said, "Do I look like I got a string of a rope around my waist?" Like that meaning that do I look like a priest to you? Or,
A rope around the waist.
Like
It could be a
or
priest,
string.
but it's a Christian. Not all Christians are priests, but from amongst the Christians, There's some of them are priests, but the idea is not to imitate them. طيب. The next issue is, what time? 5 minutes. طيب. Now he moves into the things that are haram in the salat. Those 6 things were not haram, they were disliked. And if it's disliked, that means I should stay away from doing it. If I did do it, it's not necessarily a sin. It's not a sin. It's not going to validate the prayer, but I would have got a reward for staying away from it. That's what dislike or hated. Sometimes they translate it as hated, or sometimes they translate it as detested. Detested, right? The things that are haram now, haram. This is on page 210. It says, وَتُحْرَمْ خُيَلَاء فِي ثَوْبٍ وَغَيْرِهِ. Says it is haram to be, it says here, vanity in dressing. Vanity in dressing and other actions is forbidden. What? Vanity. What is vanity in dressing? Anybody? Vain, huh? Trying to be too cute. Extravagant. More of extravagant. Nothing wrong with looking good. Nothing wrong with looking good, yo. And Allah Jamil, wa yuhibbu jamal. Allah is beautiful and He loves beauty. Nothing wrong with us looking nice, dressing nice, smelling nice. Nothing wrong with that. So in this case, yes, to be arrogant in your dress. And in this issue, this is the issue. This is important, y'all. This issue is where the issue of isbal comes from, dragging a garment. This is where you find the issue. The issue about the garments below the ankle, this is where you find it in the books of fiqh, in the salat, under the chapter of covering the odor, in covering yourself in the prayer. That is what is haram, to be arrogant in your clothing. What are they talking about? They're talking about the dragging of the garment. Because even now, and even if we use us, a couple years ago, it was a style that the jeans would be under the shoe. That was, dang, how long was that? Dang, I thought it was a couple years ago. So I'm saying time be flying. However long it was, it was a couple years ago. That was a long while ago. Dang. Oh man, yeah, it's about right. It's like that's like 15 years. Yeah, the shoe, the jeans was under it. Not that they had to be. They didn't have to be under the shoe, but that was brand new jeans, right? Oversized, extra, right? Under, dragging. Under like the shoe, this the shoe. Yeah, they walking, yeah. Yeah. Where was you at, Sheikh? Yo, nah. So that was a style, right? That's where the idea is coming in, the khuyalat and dressing, arrogance and dressing, the issue of isbal. That to do it out of arrogance, haram. But a person says, they say, if a person is not doing it out of arrogance, they say that is disliked. And the dislike is removed if a person has a reason, for example, in the wintertime, extreme cold, that a person wears a longer garment to block the wind, then they say it's not even disliked at that point. So the idea is in clothing, not because I don't want people to understand that just because you buy something expensive that's being arrogant. That doesn't mean that. This is the issue of the lower garment being below the ankle and that being a sign of arrogance. And it usually translates, I think, in the hadith, conceit, right? Of dragging the garment. It says in the thobe, which is the garment, or anything else, which the ulama also include, a person can be extreme or extravagant in the turban. It's extremism that can be in the turban. And how long they call the one that the part that drops down, that's called like the tail of it. It's a way to be extreme in that if you know the rules connected to a turban. Tayyib. Number 2, wa taswir wa isti'maluhu. It says the second thing. It says in picture drawing in its use. Picture drawing in its use. Tayyib. The issue of pictures, and I don't even know if we want time to go through all this, is mentioned here in Kitab al-Salat under the chapter about the odor, right? That's where you would find the issue. And they say that this is the, when we talk about, it says picture drawing, which is picture drawing is different from pictures, photos. Picture drawing and photos, they're not exactly the same. And the ulama differ. Ulama differ on the hukum on picture taking. It's translated in the books that we know, the picture makers will be in the hellfire, right? Picture makers. Well, the ulama differ. Does picture makers include cameras? That's a difference of opinion of ulama. Many say that it does not include cameras, right? Some going to say out of necessity or ID. That's a necessity though. So number one, the pictures they talking about, pictures they say of like things with souls, number one. Animals, things that have souls, which doesn't include a tree, like waterfalls and stuff like that. Number two, and this is, there was a time, y'all, there was a time in Philly, if you took pictures, you were not on the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, period. Them same people, right? Instagram accounts, TikToks and all that, Facebook, right? The question gotta be, what happened? Is it still haram or is it permissible now? Because I'm telling you, it was a time, if you took pictures, you and the whole masjid you go to shout out. I'm serious. Meaning, I'm not going to pray there. Why? They shout out. Why? They take pictures. Oh no, I'm cool. Brother might not marry a sister. She might not marry a brother because he took pictures. It was early 2000s, right? Now look at us. So the question got to be, recording classes. If you recorded a class, you want the chair, you want fame. Now look at us. So the question got to be, is it still haram? Well, you got to ask the person who's doing it. Every person is accountable for what they do. You with me? You with me? The ulama differ on if cameras, number one, that's a whole issue about pictures. Do cameras enter into the statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? The wording of the hadith, are cameras included in that? What we know is including is drawing, painting, sculpting, right? No. Paintings, drawings of what? With souls. They mention animals also, right? That's why you see people, when they make drawings, they might turn the back. Yeah, children's book, they don't have a face on them. You know what I'm saying? Based on the issue. That's the issue. Now, it's not like it's one opinion on it. They're really not different. And the ones who say that you take pictures, all right, what can you take pictures of? I mean, you can take pictures of women not covered properly. It's still restrictions on that. But the basic issue is camera, photos, photography. Is that a part of the hadith or not? Many hold that it is and many hold that it isn't. It was a time here that we held one issue like this in a book of fiqh. We held a fiqh issue to throw a whole masjid. They're not following the sunnah, which is a problem. That's part of the problem we have now. Part of the problem now is that type of understanding leads to extremism. If you're not following the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then what are you following? If a person, they don't follow the sunnah, what they follow? What does a person understand? If you say they don't follow the sunnah, what do they follow? They desires, right? So that means they're the people of desires. That's what it equals. And if they're the people of desires, how do we treat the people of desires? Do we return the salams to them? We got Athar from the South. They wouldn't return the salams. Cross the street. Don't talk to them. Don't be near them. Don't get caught talking to them. Right? Over an issue like this. That is not ijma'. Ulama differ. If you look up this issue, you're going to see some of the big scholars we know say it's permissible to take pictures with cameras. I shake everything mean, rahimahullah. Right? And there's a lot going on, but this point being, I'm only mentioning this so we can see where would I even find that issue. If I'm looking for the issue and I go to a book like this, I have to go to Kitab al-Salat. Then I have to go to the chapter about the conditions for the Salat. And there's 6 conditions. I got to go to the condition about covering the odor. And it's under there. That's where I'm going to find that. I think we got to stop because we got to pray. I'm sorry, further.
If this make you laugh amongst the scholars, would the safest bet just to leave it alone?
No doubt. If it's khilaf amongst the ulama, especially in a case like that, it's safe to leave it. It's safe to stay away from it altogether for you. But because you are not clear on it, you can't make everybody take the safe opinion. Somebody might read the difference of the scholars and they might read what this sheikh said. And they're like, then they read what the other scholars say and they say, that sounds stronger to me. This one makes more sense to me. I'm nobody. I'm just reading what they said. This one makes more sense. Because it makes sense to me and the other one makes sense to you, we don't have to become enemies after that. If that's what you're going to do, if you didn't even read it, you just want to be safe and stay away from it all, alhamdulillah, that's cool. Me personally, I read both and I'm going with this one. You saying, no, I'm going with this one. That's cool too. Alhamdulillah, we still brothers. We still got to pray, right? We still got the shahada. If I die, I'm still Muslim. You got to pray over me. If you die, same thing. It doesn't turn us into enemies because of a difference of opinion amongst the scholars, which the scholars already differ. There's nothing new.
So just want to make sure I had it included. The item itself that's haram is to have an image in the salat, or taswir is the word they use. The taswir in the salat, like while you praying, if I got a picture of my face on my shirt, on my food, on my desire, that makes my prayer haram.
If you look at the wording, it says that's one thing. One thing is the actual thing of picture drawing. That's the issue of what we talking about, pictures, right? And when we say pictures, we automatically go to photos, right? But we're talking about picture drawing. The other issue is where it says in its use, which means it might be on clothes. And that's why you see brothers come in, they might have some type of something on their shirt, they might flip their shirt inside out, right? If they flip their shirt inside out, and we ain't getting into all that, y'all. Let's leave it like that. Let's just say they being safe.
I got one question.
Yes.
Is it, you know, it's around the praying, but is it around to weird?
That's the next issue. Should I even be wearing it in the first place? No. If it's haram in the salat to pray in, should I be wearing it outside of the salat? Allah, let me stop there, Sean. Listen, be safe. If you be safe, I'm saying that. If you be safe, I'm sorry, Shay.
Don't you go back to the previous page then?
What's that?
Because like it goes with being safe, but like you said before, if you wear it, you can get caught in a situation where you can't change it. And you gotta pray.
Right. You can get caught in a situation where, okay, maybe clothing articles, there's not that many, we got to cover up. Point being is that, and I don't want to go too deep in that because for real, that's a whole issue. I bought books on just the issue of cameras alone. There's books written on just on that. So this right here is just a heads up to where would I even find it? You have to find it in this chapter. You see what I'm saying? And sometimes we have an issue not knowing where the issues are because we haven't completed anything from beginning to end. If you complete things from beginning to end, you're going to find now, even though you don't memorize everything, you always going to know where to go back and find it at. I don't know it off the top of my head, but I can get back with you. Let me go check it out. And you know where to go and get it. At bare minimum. Allahu Akbar, sallallahu alaihi wa sallam, Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. It's a little warm, Sheikh. Hold on.